Today is Saturday, February 15th, and we will be reading Leviticus chapter 13.
Oh, you have 13 over there? All right. You have Slushy? Is he reading with us today?
Yes.
Yes? You have 13? Right there. You're right. You ready? 13? You're ready too?
Yes.
Oh, we have a fist bump and a thumbs up. You ready, Matthew? Oh, a cheerful disposition. All right.
What? Really rude.
Oh. Bless you.
That's it. All right, chapter 13. The law concerning leprosy. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, when a man has on the skin of his body a swelling, a scab, or spot, and it turns on the skin of his body like a mark of a leprous sore, then he shall be brought to Aaron the priest, or to one of his sons the priest. And the priest shall examine the mark on the skin of the body, and when the hair on the diseased area is white, and the mark appears to be deeper than the skin of his body, then it is a leprous sore. So the priest shall look on him and pronounce him unclean. If the spot is white on the skin of his body, and it appears to be no deeper than the skin, and the hair is not white, then the priest shall isolate the person who has the mark for 7 days. Then the priest shall examine him on the seventh day, and if the mark is still visible, and the mark has not spread into the skin, then the priest shall isolate him for 7 days more. And the priest shall examine him again on the seventh day, and if the mark has faded and not spread into the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is only a scab, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the scab spreads in the skin after he has been seen by the priest for his cleansing, he shall be seen by the priest again. And if the priest sees that the scab has spread in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is leprosy. When a person has leprosy, then it shall be reported to the priest. The priest shall examine him, and if there is a white swelling in the skin, and it has turned the hair white, and there is raw flesh in the swelling, it is a recurring leprosy in the skin of his body, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean, but he shall not isolate him, for he is unclean. If the leprosy breaks all over the skin, and the disease covers all the skin of the person who has the disease from his head to his feet, wherever the priest looks, then the priest shall examine, and if the leprosy has covered all his body, he shall pronounce him clean from the disease. Stop. Hold on. I got technical difficulties with this kid.
Oh, she's trying to close the book.
She's throwing everything, yes. She already slapped me with the slushy.
Oh.
Okay. It has turned white, and he is clean. But when raw flesh appears on him, he shall be unclean. The priest shall see the raw flesh and pronounce him to be unclean, for the raw flesh is unclean. It is leprosy. Or if the raw flesh turns again, and it is changed to white, then he shall come to the priest, and the priest shall see him. And if the priest is changed to white, then the disease is changed to white, then the priest shall pronounce him clean who has the disease. He is clean. And when the skin has a boil, or it is healed, and in the place of the boil there is a white swelling or a reddish white spot, then it will be shown to the priest. And if the priest sees it, and it is deeper than the skin, and the hair has turned white, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a leprous sore that has broken out in the boil. But if the priest looks at it, and there are no white hairs in it, and if it is not deeper than the skin, but has faded, then the priest shall isolate the person for 7 days. If it spreads around the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a leprous sore. But if the spot stays in its place and does not spread, then it is the scar of a boil, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. Or if there is some of the skin on the body where there is a burn, and the raw flesh that has a burn becomes a reddish or white spot, then the priest shall examine it, and if the hair in the spot has turned white, and it is deeper than the skin, then it is a leprous disease broken out from the burn. Therefore the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a leprous sore. If the priest looks at it, and there is no white hair in the spot, and it is no deeper than the other skin, and it is faded, then the priest shall isolate him for 7 days. And if the priest shall examine him on the seventh day, and if it has spread around the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a leprous sore. If the spot stays in its place, and it does not spread in the skin, but it is faded, then it is a swelling from the burn, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. For if it is a scar from the burn, if a man or woman has a sore on the head or on the beard, then the priest shall examine the sore, and if it is deeper than the skin, and there is in it a yellow thin hair, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a scaly leprosy of the head or beard. If the priest examines the scaly sore, and it is no deeper than the skin, and there is no black hair in it, then the priest shall isolate the person with the scale for 7 days. And on the seventh day the priest shall examine the sore, and if the scale has not spread, and there is no yellow hair in it, and the scale is not deeper than the skin, then he shall shave, but the scale he shall not shave, and the priest shall isolate the person with the scale another 7 days. And on the seventh day the priest shall examine the scale, and if the scale has not spread in the skin, and it is no deeper than the skin, the priest shall pronounce him clean. He shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the scale
if the scale spreads over the skin after his cleansing, then the priest shall examine him. If the scale has spread over the skin, the priest shall not look for yellow hair. He is unclean. But if the scale appears not to have changed, and there is black hair growing in it, then the scale is healed. He is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. If a man or a woman has spots on the skin of the body, with white bright spots, then the priest shall examine. And if the bright spots on the skin of the body are a faded white, then it is just a rash that has broken out on the skin. He is clean. When a man has lost hair from his head, and he is bald, he is still clean. And when a man has lost hair from his forehead, then he is bald on the forehead, he is still clean. But if there is on the bald head or bald forehead a reddish white sore, it is a leprous disease breaking out on his bald head or his bald forehead. Then the priest shall examine it. If the disease swelling is reddish white, and his bald head, or on his bald forehead, resembling the leprous disease on the skin of the body, he is leprous. He is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him unclean. His disease is on his head. The man who has a leprous disease shall have torn clothes and disheveled hair, and he shall cover his mustache, and shall cry, Unclean, unclean, all the days he has the disease. He shall be defiled. He is unclean. He shall dwell alone, and he shall live outside the camp. The law about leprous garments. If a garment has a leprous disease, whether it is a wool or a linen garment, whether it is a warp or woof of a linen or wool fabric, or in the leather or anything made of leather, and if the disease is greenish or reddish in the garment, or in the leather, or in the warp or woof, or in anything made of leather, it is a leprous disease, and shall be shown to the priests. And the priest shall examine the disease, and isolate the infected article for 7 days. And he shall examine the disease on the 7th day. If the disease has spread in the garment, either in the warp, or in the woof, or in the leather, or in any work that is made of leather, This is the spreading leprous disease. This is a spreading leprous disease. It is unclean. He shall therefore burn the garment, whether warp or woof, wool or linen, or anything of leather that has the disease, for it is a spreading leprous disease. It shall be burned in the fire. If the priest examines it, and the disease has not spread in the garment, either in the warp or the woof, or in anything of leather, then the priest shall command that they wash the article in which the disease appears, and he shall isolate it for 7 days more. The priest shall examine the infected article after it has been washed. If the infected spot has not changed its color, even if the disease has not spread, it is unclean. You shall burn it in the fire, whether the leprous spot is on the inside or on the outside of the article. If the priest examines and the disease has faded after washing it, he shall tear the spot out of the garment, or out of the leather, or out of the warp or the woof. If it still appears in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof, or in anything of leather, it is spreading. You shall burn it in the fire, that in which the disease appears. The garment that you have washed, either in the warp or woof, or anything of leather, if the disease is gone from it, then it shall be washed a second time, and shall be clean. This is the law of the leprous disease in a garment of wool or linen, either in the warp or woof, or anything of leather, to determine if it is clean or unclean. And that is chapter 13. Wait, hang on. So Daddy took Catherine because she had to go to the bathroom. And so that's why I started reading. But, and then did Tano make it? Did Nathaniel make it? or did he end up falling asleep? Nathaniel? Okay. I don't know. I'm not that convinced. All right. Bye.